Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 5 p.m. Project. It is me recording again, which means that I am officially done with my workday, and it is probably after 5 p.m. I've been having something kind of a topic come to my brain a lot this week, and just in general over the last couple of hours today. Uh, Talking about school loans. I'm somebody who went to graduate school and had to take out a decent amount of school loans, over six figures worth, to accomplish a degree in upper level healthcare. So this is something that has obviously affected me because I had to and wanted to be able to get into a field that I could help people. That was the main goal that I had in mind when going into school. Now, what they don't tell you off the bat, especially when you're in your younger 20s, is that grad school is a lot more expensive than undergraduate school. Having six figures build up within a 3 year span is daunting, especially at the end of it. So this is kind of my thought process as to how all these things go. When I got out of school, it was directly after COVID, and that's when the SAFE plan for repayment was still available. Obviously, with the current administration, these things are not really available anymore. They're kind of on a forbearance. So I've been on forbearance on and off since I got out of school. With a need to probably get off within the next couple of months. And that is something that is daunting because the SAVE plan allowed for us to have easier access to payments that we could afford, which will allow for an easier lifestyle. Still paying money back, but easier to afford other things, whether it's trying to save for a house, trying to save for a potential kid in someone's future. The SAVE plan made all of that more available. Now, obviously, that doesn't get the government as much money back as they want, and it doesn't allow these institutions to charge as much because people start to see the holes within these institutions charging so much money so that people can get into careers that are for helping people. But that is something that I have had to kind of work through on my own as far as my reason for taking these loans out in the first place. Because there's not a day that goes by where I'm not questioning myself. Why did I get myself into six figures of loans for a profession? I'm a physical therapist, so I don't make tons of money, but the schooling is still very expensive. So every now and then, I have a right to question if my decision was correct to go to school for this. Now, that's not to say I don't love my profession. I love everything about it. I love being able to come in and treat a patient highly motivated who want to better themselves, get stronger, start from not walking or barely walking to walking proudly and sufficiently within their daily life. That is something that is extremely, extremely gratifying towards me. But then there's the other task and other part of this where you have this high figure of loans on you for, however long. There's some ways in healthcare where you can, or in just general life, where you can work for a nonprofit or for government institutions where you can apply and get PSLF, which is that public service loan forgiveness, where typically you have to work for about 10 years and make qualifying payments within those 10 years. So that's something I'm working towards right now, which again is a very good benefit, but it's still the sense of this large looming sum that is kind of held over your head. And especially over the last year or two, with all these different changes to the Department of Education and different administration filings through the current government, there's things that just are just not as straightforward as they should be. You can try contacting these school loan providers, the servicers that you have your loans through, because they essentially sell your loan to somebody else that's technically connected to the government now. So you're making payments to like a second one off company, but it still goes towards the government. Uh, it's all such a mess. And it kind of depicts a lot of the American like government as a whole. It's just not making sense. There's so many things that could be better. Why do we charge so much for schooling so that our population just wants to better the community that they live in? Why is it that we strive to make as much money as possible from these academic institutions? And that's likely because of how we want to keep, the general population not as strong-willed, not as educated as we want, as they need to be. having such high costs for school brings it back to those cases of we're limiting access to these types of education institutions, and that also causes a lack of access to different types of healthcare providers because school for healthcare providers is expensive. So you're limiting these types of different cultural differences to getting into these fields because of the high amounts of loans that they are having to take out, and or they won't qualify, or second guessing even going into the profession in the first place because, hey, why do I want to take out six figures of loans where the rates are above 5% on that? That it just doesn't make sense. There are so many different bad stories and nightmares that you hear on social media, on TikTok, on YouTube about how you've been making payments for years, but it's only going towards interest. But you're not even covering the interest. You're still just building interest, even though you're making these daily or monthly payments. So, at the end of the day, for me personally, I have to try and push myself into remaining as positive as possible. Some days are harder. Some days I question my, decisions to do what I did with going to grad school. But in the end, I know it's worth it because I've been able to help those within the profession I am. Uh, yes, that loan will hold over my head for many years to come, but I think I'm somebody that can kind of push myself forward to improve myself and improve my life circumstances to readily be able to not worry about these loans as much. Again, it's not going to be with a snap of a finger, but it's going to be something that comes with time and me putting my head down and grinding as far as, working through these student loan payments as best as possible and hopefully maintaining my PSLF eligibility so I can get that done relatively quickly. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but you work with what you're given and we try to see what we can kind of mold to help ourselves as best as possible. So, with that said, I think that there's better ways to do school loans. I don't think that there should be a significant hike in price for graduate level loans. That doesn't really track to me. It just feels like a paywall to limit access to certain demographics of people who are afraid of that large sum of money. And that's very fair for them to feel that way. I think that there should be better ways of getting an education within this country. It shouldn't have to cost an arm and a leg. You shouldn't have to, you know, put your future on hold to pay off high amounts of school loans. If you have to take out a loan for school, it shouldn't be more than 20K. Why are we charging that much more? Why can't the government help that out much more? That's beyond me. There's a lot of details that need to go into that. And that will probably be a whole other episode way down the line when I want to dig into that more deeply. Okay. But that is what we have today. I appreciate whoever listens. Again, if it's just me, I'm glad I'm able to voice my concerns to myself. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye.